Ladies and gentlemen, we have one final game in this very long set between Neblime and Hamster. We're going to be going back to Sideshow for this match. It is, of course, Zerg versus Protoss. Hamster in the bottom right-hand corner here as the Protoss. Neblime in the top left as the Zerg. And that is an interesting conversation. You stay if you win. I don't know what they're referring to, but I hope that's not a spoiler because this is the last replay that was submitted. And we have some interesting information here from Neblime, talking to Hamster here about how he switched from Zerg. It'll be interesting to hear Hamster's reaction. But first, let's talk about Cosmonarchy. This is indeed a new vision for the real-time strategy game genre. You'll be seeing a lot of interesting things in this match, no doubt. At least I certainly hope so. But so far, Neblime has had Hamster's, number. And Hamster thinks that there are too many Zergs. That's interesting. Having a conversation about the previous tournament back before it was called Acropolis. And Hamster thinks Terran is too hard. You heard it here first. I can't wait for Mystery Meat's return. Please press 3 on this video if you think Mystery Meat should return. Hatchross coming up here. This is something that Neblime has been doing quite a lot of lately, is Hatch on the ramp. Worker Scout behind it. I'm interested in seeing where this particular match goes because at this point, Hamster obviously is down in the set. The best he can do is a 4-2 scoreline. And I'm interested in seeing if he can get on the board. How has he internalized the changes from the last couple of matches? He did get Neblime's number with some early game harass. And in the set that they played prior to this, where they just Hamster actually won, I believe it was 2-1 in that particular set. It's hard to remember because all the casts, they blend together. We do have an Ovolith coming again, so that Kagrant will not be mutated. It'll be dropped off on the low ground, but we have a faster Nexus here. Expansion timing for Hamster once again coming up ahead. The Legionnaire decided to not kill the Worker Scout. Instead moving across the map because, of course, Neblime still, even now, has no pool. Maybe thinking about dropping it here. No, it's going to be another Kagrant. I feel like this style is Neblime experimenting. It really doesn't seem like it would work out versus an opponent who was maybe a little bit more proactive than Hamster was. The problem is this is such a foreign style to Hamster, who previously did play Zerg, that, yeah, it's a little bit strange. Now, there's a little bit of a micro trick that Hamster could have done with that Legionnaire, I believe, where if he tagged one of the workers and then fell back and then tried to teleport onto it, there's a chance that the teleport goes a little bit further away. But instead, we have some silly antics here where there's the... This is the lone Legionnaire. There's not going to be any other moves here. Now, Neblime has kind of pranked himself here because as soon as you stick to a target with a Legionnaire, you can kill it. But then Hamster pranked himself by not finishing that worker off. So all of this time, the workers have not been mining. We will get a worker kill and some very mild harassment onto the hatch, as there is still no pool on route. So this has not been efficient whatsoever from Neblime. It's not that he's losing per se, but it's just this could be in a much better position. This is kind of like a honkathon right now, but the workers got a bite. Maybe this is the thumbnail. Post your feedback about the thumbnails, by the way. I am interested in what people think on that. Finally does end up taking the life of that Legionnaire. Meanwhile, behind this, we got double lattice after the gateways. Maybe the comment about vassals is something that Hamster will take to heart. He's obviously scouted a large number of circuits, like a heavy focus on the anti-surface defense. We still don't have a pool. We still have no structures coming at all. It's all just turtling. And I certainly hope that Hamster can make this make a punish out of this situation because, I don't like this. I don't like what I'm seeing here. I honestly think this is just what you would call degen moves. Last time I mentioned that jokingly in an FFA, Neblime was seemingly quite offended. It's not actually going to be an air response, though. Instead, it's going to be a Manifold and a Golem, maybe looking to bust the defenses. But, I mean, honestly, I would take, like, an Embassy here or something. Now, the one thing that is kind of interesting here is that the Ovolith gets kicked out, and that worker never actually made it back home. But the Ovolith gets kicked out and only sees the lattices. So maybe Neblime thinks it's vassals, and he might be forced to expend even further workers. Remember that this is technically like he's actually -1 worker because one of them is off in this lovely little spot there. 5 o'clock on the map. Sideshow's an interesting one. I feel like, obviously I made it, but just it's been so long ago that I might as well not have like pretended to just not be the author. For the purposes of just looking at it, it does feel like I tried to make a very deliberate move. We are going to see some vassals move out, so that'll be interesting to see what the response is. I tried to be deliberate in adding, wide ramps and bridges, but unfortunately, it feels like maybe the map is still a little bit too cloistered off for large ground armies. Nothing for anti-air whatsoever. We got a couple of hydras on the way. But that is it. And so now we're going to see some anti-air, but there are going to be some worker burrows forced out here. No, there's actually going to be a frag there. Neblime thinking about what he needs to do. Hamster could have maybe force tested on. Oh, it's decolliding from the egg. Actually falls away. Uh-oh. Neblime is getting kerfluffled here. He's got actually 4 burrowed workers there, so even though a little bit of worker harassment time. I feel like the vassals could have probably gotten one more kill there, maybe 2 more kills there. Meanwhile, here's the Ovaleth. Oh, the Manifold actually tickled it a little bit faster than the Dracodins were able to, and I feel like maybe that would have made the difference, because obviously the projectile travel time there. Embassy on the way as well. Nothing else really following on. The Vassal's not going to be in a very useful position at the top right, so not really getting any scouting off. Like, I would like to see one right here, maybe, and even if, like, little things, like just tickling the Circuith, it's not going to kill it. But, like, forcing your opponent to do something can be a nice little APM tax. This Ovaleth, once again, allowed to get another scout off. This is another thing. I think, like, if you're going up against Neblime, and again, like, he has different playstyles. He's a crafty guy. He has different playstyles depending on who he's facing and what race he's facing and stuff like that. But if you can deny him scouting, and you can try to contest his greed, and, like, even just the single Legionnaire did so much economic slowdown and damage. But, like, at this point, I feel like it's been allowed to work. So, yes, okay, Hamster has tempo on the 3rd. He's actually capping a gas geyser real quick. But we're going up to 6 hatches, I think. So, that's a pretty considerable amount of production in the early stages of the game. We don't have the ski back yet, although he can't afford it. So, I don't think we're going to see mass skith, but, like, it is technically a possibility. There's only the 1 idle for splash damage, so not ideal. One of the vassals does indeed get bopped. Actually, 2 of them looks like got bopped. And yeah, I think we might end up seeing a kind of a similar approach here. Hamster was trying to get eyes on a potential spot over here with the 3rd, but he has a witness out, so he can actually just manually scout that 11 o'clock location, sending out his ground force as his witness has spotted this hatch. We're not going to see the forward outpost with the Ovaleth anymore because the Ovaleth seems to have been bopped. He's attacking his own Hatcherosk, so that's good. Thought I wouldn't catch that. Another Ovaleth actually being made. So I think, yeah, he must have lost the original. Missed that on the map when it was going down. We saw the worker over here, but I thought the Ovaleth was actually going to be in the clear. Another pylon coming out, expanding the build space. We are going to have an action over here. I think this Hatcherosk will have to get canceled. Yeah, he doesn't have enough forces in the area to actually contest it, so he's going to end up losing it. And actually not even getting canceled. I mean, that does hurt. He only had 300 minerals in the bank anyway, so getting most of that back would have been nice. Obviously now caught outside, he is not going to be able to take this expansion. He ends up canceling it and burrowing the worker instead. We'll see if the witness is with the army. It doesn't look like it is. I actually don't know where the witness went. Got some units moving around. Establishing control. I do feel like Hamster economically is going to be in a pretty strong position. He actually went for an embassy, obviously, and he's adding some Stargates behind this, as well as another lattice. So he clearly is aware. Yeah, there's the witness coming back in. I like Hamster's position a lot better than Neblime's here. Obviously, the 3rd base is now going down. We did see the ski back to come out. No Skithra just yet, but we might see Bactyls or something of the like. I feel like, honestly, in this situation, Hydra Izzy is fine. You might want to go for Zorkiz as opposed to ski-backed, but we'll see how the Bactyls do. There's always the potential that they end up dealing with like a good amount of the damage here, but it feels like you don't want to lose the armor pen of the Hydra. So some of the Azera cores are indeed going to be taking these initial fights. One of the main things you're going to be trying to watch out for here is whether or not the Dracodins have any peel versus this massive Hydras, and it doesn't really look like they do. The Golems are kind of in the back line there, the reinforcements. So this will be a nice quick wipe. We still have a horde of Hydras. So there is that as well, and the Bactyls have finished for a little bit of latent harass. The Ovaleth on the front lines getting more scouting intel, has not spotted any reinforcement units coming out. And those Stargates were finished, but doesn't look like they made anything. We got in the production tab just a couple of Dracodins and Golems on the way. It does feel like, yeah, okay, Exemplars are they're an acceptable choice. You do need to peel for them, or attack from over the ground, but there's no static defense over here. And this is the tricky thing about when you're facing off against a greeting player. because that greeting player can obviously suddenly turn the screws and immediately get up to a massive army before you know it, especially if there's Zerg. So it feels like Neblime got away with murder a lot in this set, and this map actually has not really changed my view on that. It feels like, you know, if Hamster was playing a little bit more aggro, he absolutely could have. He could have done more harassment, more precise micro things could have been going his way in the earlier stages of the game. He obviously could have denied this third base a lot faster. We're already up, almost immediately up to 100 workers. There's not that much in terms of army behind this, so that's kind of a crucial point. There's only 7 Hydras back at home, and nothing in the production queue. It's all workers, yeah. So if this gets wiped, and Hamster still has a force after that, this could actually be really, really rough for Neblime, because, you know, he can reinforce, of course, but can he reinforce versus the Exemplars in particular? So he's actually going to lose some units on the way out. Hamster happy to get those expensive gas units. Kind of focusing down the Bactyls when he shouldn't be, because they deal actually, they just deal less damage versus the Protoss units that were facing off against them with the armor and all that. But it doesn't look like, it looks like Hamster's moment is gone. You know what? I caught Neblime attacking his Hatchers. I caught Hamster attacking his own units as well. A violent game. And all in all, you know, the greed is going to be good, I would say. The greed is winning the day. And I do think that it's a valid strategy in the sense, like I jokingly, again, called it a degen gameplay earlier. It's like a shorthand for it, right? Because, you know, Neblime taking a very, very long time to actually get a tech node out. It looks like he might get punished, if you want to call it that, for trying to build his static defenses in this situation over here. We'll end up getting the air defenses up, but otherwise, the Circuit is dead. And honestly, this clump over here is really, really scary versus the Exemplar. I don't see any more Exemplar coming, though. So there are 2 more in the production queue, but I was kind of hoping to see, for Hamster's sake, I was hoping to see a little bit more. And now we're losing the idols. The golems are going to start to rope on up. And this Circuit is once again going to fall because Neblime has taken his foot off the gas just a moment here, making more workers. He thought about maybe taking 12 o'clock, but he hasn't started it yet. So I'm not sure what the workers are for at this point, because he's definitely beyond saturation in the bases that he does have. A pretty good engagement over here, though. Just far enough away from the ramp that maybe Hamster thought he could escape with that, but somehow he's managed to actually pull away with the Exemplar. He does need something, again, to peel, but it doesn't look like he's got any golems. They're not even, yeah, the lattices are totally idle right now. We actually have some Gladiuses coming now. If he can sync up with his other 2 Exemplar and take good fights, that's one thing, but he set this base up, but he never actually put any static defense over here. So 5 o'clock's dead again. Almost certainly. But, you know, we'll see if Neblime wants to instead focus in onto the Exemplar themselves. Some nice workers over here just rallying down for the sake of saturation are actually going to interrupt the ground army. I thought for sure Neblime would just focus on the Nexus. He wants to go in maybe for the kill here. He does pick off 1 Exemplar. Does manage to splash the other one, I think with the Bactyls, actually, surprisingly. And the Gladiuses, meanwhile, have finished. They do train a little bit faster than the Exemplars, one of which is on the way again. And they are getting a lot of their bounces. So the way that the Gladius works is that they channel onto their victims after the projectile hits, and it'll start to bounce. But Hamster is going to call GG, it seems. And that will conclude the round. Just sustained too many losses. Maybe ended up scouting like the stuff up top. I didn't see it, but that is absolutely a possibility where maybe he felt like he didn't have enough at the end of the day to rebuild after that and contend. And again, I think it underscores the importance of trying to punish the greed. Because the greed, yes, it can be good if your opponent can't counter it, but ultimately it does feel like just maybe Neblime could have gotten punished at some earlier stage. And you know what? Hats off to him. He managed to secure the dub. The main thing that I would look at that for is if you're facing off against Neblime, again, trying to deny the scouting, being a little bit more on the ball with where you position your Dracodons versus the Ovaleth to at least get some damage on it. And, you know, the Dracodon has a pretty distinctive sound now. So when you hear it hit the unit, you'll know it's like, oh, okay, my Dracodon's shooting. I'm definitely going to be paying attention to that. The score, you know, there were points in time where Hamster, who is less familiar with Protoss than Neblime is with Zerg, admittedly, was able to, you know, make it look a little bit closer in the middle of the game. I do really like the way that he played out some of the sort of early stages of the match after the initial greed had already been done. But I think Neblime kind of figured out, like, okay, I can probably just hold, or maybe he was experimenting and just saying, can I hold? It's definitely some interesting strategies here. But do I think he's going to be able to do that sort of thing against players who are more familiar with the race that they're playing and of Hamster's skill level or other skill levels that we have seen out there, like versus Hapsea, for example. I think actually, no, there's almost no way he can get away with stuff like that. Particularly, Hapsea is actually practicing some like 8-gate stuff. So if you want to see like just how fast the Protoss can get like a Legionnaire into your base, you can play against Hapsea, a Grandmaster StarCraft 2 player. Shout outs to everybody who played in the last couple of castovers. We will have some more matches coming your way soon. Hop into our Discord server and experience the joy that is Cosmonarchy. And of course, we'll be catching you guys for future events and the like. Peace.